Hello, hi everyone, and welcome back. So this is the fourth in a series of kind of chats I'm doing with people and live streams. So welcome everyone. Good to see you back. Tonight I have an illustrious guest, and I'm just going to add him straight to the stream, Mr. Simon Lee. How are you, sir?
Hey, I have an echo.
Oh, okay. Um,
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. And you?
you still getting an echo?
Yeah, but I've only got the StreamYard page open on my PC at the moment.
Okay, let me. I'm not sure what we can do about that.
Oh, in fact, that sounds better now.
Oh, okay, cool.
Oh, okay, yeah, let's go.
Cool, cool. Hi, everyone. Let's just put up some quick hellos. So, hi, Constantine. I always like to say hello to people who've joined. Hi, how you doing? Hi, Aditya. Nice to have you on. Thanks for joining. Oh, there's Richard. Hi,
Hey,
Simon
Richard.
and Gregor. Hey, how's it going? Yeah, cool. So he's joining from LinkedIn. Awesome. Right, let's remove that.
Nice.
Right. So in this session, we're going to talk. Oh, there's Michael. Say hello. I'm just going to keep doing this for
Hey,
the first 10
Michael.
minutes. We're going to talk about careers, mainly Simon's career, obviously, and social media. Oh, there's Mr. Yorick.
Oh, look, Yorek's
Wait,
there as
Yorick.
well.
We need to
An
wait to Yorick.
international team of people. I like this.
Yeah, awesome. Right, cool. So, give us a little bit of background into before the cloud journey started. Tell us
Pre-cloud.
how did you get
So,
started in IT?
how do I get started? Well, if we're going to go that far back to the very, very beginning, the
Not that
very
old.
beginning of Simon's career, so it's probably my dad's fault, I think. He always had like an interest in computers and technology, and I got to play with computers from like a very young age. Sort of went to school. I was always that kid in school that helped all the teachers out when they were doing like video stuff and doing multimedia things in classes. I'd help out doing that, or like trying to troubleshoot stuff when they couldn't get the projectors to work or extend PowerPoint slides and things. So it kind of started from there, and then the takeaway when I came out of like secondary school was I want something to do in IT. Don't know what, because obviously IT is a vast um, area of things to do. So yeah, did that, and then went to college. So the college course that I did was it was going to be a 2-year BTEC, and so the first year was all about software and computers and installing Windows, which I'd already done from playing around with computers at home. So I was like, that's not really of any interest to me. Then the second year was more networking, which was more interesting because I kind of understood what networking was in terms of like you get a router from your ISP, you plug your computer into it, and you go out to the internet. But it was like only very high level, whereas this was more low level and doing stuff with Cisco networking and using the Cisco Packet Tracer app to build networks and learn about like proper enterprise grade networking, which was really interesting because I'd never done it. So I did that for a couple of months and went, well, this is great, but I want some more actual hands-on real world experience rather than doing all theory based. So I reached out to some friends who were also in IT from a local youth group that I was part of at the time, and basically said, can I come do any volunteering to try and get some insights into what the real world of IT is like from an enterprise or from a business perspective?
And what
One
age
of
were
the
you?
guys,
What age were you at this point? What kind of age are you talking about?
17, 18.
Okay. Yeah.
So yeah, I basically, so it was doing the equivalent of, instead of going to university, I went to college. So yeah, I was about, yes, 17, 18 at that point in time. And one of them came back and said, yeah, I've just started as a IT engineer for a school, and it'd be great to just have basically like a dog's body to run around and just give me a hand
Yeah.
looking after this network. So I did, and I did that for best part of 6-7 months as like a volunteer. And then on one of the trips into the school, he basically said, I've been headhunted for a management position at a different school, and I think that you'd be potentially good for this role at the current school where we were. And he said, if you play your cards right, then you might be able to get a job out of this. Which, being sort of 18 and had never had a proper job before, obviously got very excited about this. So yeah, things went on, and hey Dan. So we went through, and we came up to like the summer holidays, and the school said, would you be happy to do the run up from like Easter to the summer to fulfill as this guy had left? And I was like, yes, of course. And then they said, we're going to advertise for a position for come September, and you're obviously more than welcome to apply for it. And if you're successful, you can then stay on and do that. And obviously I applied and got the role. And then I did that for just under 3 years, which was really, really cool. It also then meant that the college course that I was doing, I kind of went, well, I don't need this now because I have a job. Like everyone told me that getting jobs, like your first job is always really hard to get. Yeah. So I was like, oh, well, I'd have to get the BTEC and then go and apply and wait for a couple of months. I was like, well, I've already cracked the first hurdle. I have a job and I'm being paid for it. So I don't need this college degree now. Which kind of shows, because when I finished, my parents had great high expectations of me and we're going to come out like with distinction star across the board. And I came out with like pass, merit, pass, which they were like, I think they were genuinely gutted by. But I was like, I've got a job. So it's surplus to requirement now. And that was my start into IT. So yeah, to give you a bit of background on the school. Hi, Marco. So in the UK, we have either single form or two form entry. So it means that so it was a primary school. So we had 2 classes per year. So there was probably about 400 students that I had to look after and like create user accounts for. There was I think we had 60 iPads and there was like 15 classrooms and an IT suite that there was me primarily looking after from a day-to-day perspective. And then we had like a third party MSP in the background for just in case if I got stuck or needed to ask questions. And yeah, so I did that for, like I say, for about 3 years. And one of the very early projects I did, which I kind of regret not documenting well enough, was we were one of the first schools to roll out like SharePoint. Oh, so we our on-prem like file server because they were wanting to be able to do remote working. So I helped with the local authority that managed all our emails and stuff, helped them create this brand new SharePoint site, and I migrated all the data over. And I was, like I say, probably 18 or 19 at the time. Cool. One of my regrets for that was not actually writing down. Yeah, I know.
Logging it.
Yeah.
Yeah, every time you say SharePoint, you've got to spit.
I know.
Spit the dog, if you remember that.
Exactly. But to say that I was like I say, 18 or 19 at the time, to have done that migration and gone, we've created all the new users, done all the DNS changes for 365 and everything else, and got that to work. And they loved it. And it worked really, really well. And it meant that they could then work remotely from home and they didn't have issues of having to carry around memory sticks and having duplicate data everywhere. So that was probably, one of the highlights of my time there at the primary school. So I did that for 3 years. And then I moved on to a managed service provider that also did education stuff and was there for 2 years. And that was like a step up. So I went from doing in-house IT for one school to being like a field engineer for 5 schools that would get, hey, Boris. And we would do 5 schools and it'd be like a morning in one school and an afternoon in another. So I did that and it was kind of the similar sort of thing, doing break fix support and bits and pieces, and then got to play around with a little bit of enterprise IT when I was in the office. So got to help out with a couple of projects, got to do some stuff with SolarWinds and enable and deploy some monitoring for that for some of our enterprise customers. Hey, Chris.
Hey, Chris.
I think Chris would do really well as a SharePoint SME engineer. He'd love it. That sounds just like he's up his street, does that? So I did that for a bit, and then decided after 2 years of doing like field engineer stuff in education, I was like, okay, I've done this now for a bit. I want to try and do some enterprise IT. So went looking for some interviews, had an interview with CDW, which the CDW interview was kind of interesting because it was sold to me as one thing, which was being like a proactive consultant. Mm-hmm. So I thought, great, you'll be getting to do you'll be doing meeting and greeting stuff like what we do now at Intercept, and then helping do all the design work and things like that. So I was like, that sounds right up my street, and it's what I want to be able to do, further down the line in my career. Did the interview. It was very much more admin and paperwork. It was hands off technically. So I was really gutted. Sort of did that for 9 months, and at the end of it, So there was a 6 months probation, and I asked if we could extend it.
Mm-hmm.
And after they extended it, we sort of sat down and went, yeah, we mutually agreed that it wasn't the right fit in terms of what I'd expressed at the outcome to what was actually being requested of me from a day-to-day point. But it gave me an insight into like how big organizations work and how they build stuff to order and like some of the more behind-the-scenes business process, which was useful from a learning skill set. And then, did that. So then I had a month out of being unemployed because I thought, well, I've got some money saved up. I want to go try do some exams. So tried to do that. So primarily, I've never been really good with exams. I'm more hands-on practical. So like from an IT point of view, when you're building servers and building PCs, that's great. But like I've never been great at studying it for exams. So I tried to do some MCSA stuff back in the day. Shows you how long ago it was.
I didn't realise you were that old.
Yeah, well, I'll caveat that with it was the MCSA for the 2012 R2 exam, so it's not that old. But yeah, tried to do some of those, and it kind of didn't work out. And so I was living at home at the time with my parents. So the deal I made was I'll have a month out of work, and to just see what I can do. And if I don't get anywhere, it was 2017. Oh, as in like the year was 2016. Might have been. It was a while ago, put it that way. So I opted to take a month out of work, and then we came up to Christmas, and my parents were like, right, well, you've tried this.
We'll come to this later. We'll come back to this.
We'll come to that in about 40 minutes time when we get to like the Azure end.
We'll get to the funny stories later.
No, it was 2012 R2 Constantine. So yeah, so I had a month out and then decided, well, my parents were like, you've had your month, you need to go get a job. So they were like, well, you can either go and sign up to the job centre and see what they can give you. But I was like, I've got LinkedIn and I know people online. So I sort of spoke to a couple of recruiters online and then landed a job doing some work in a college down in the Midlands, which was really cool. So this was during the point where like Windows 7 had finished being supported and they were racing for the deadline to get cut over to Windows 10. So I got to spend 9 months with them doing Windows 10 deployment, writing PowerShell and drinking coffee. It was the most enjoyable 9 months I've ever had in a job. I literally rock up.
Why is that? Just because you're writing code? Or?
I was literally writing code, nothing else. It was pure just writing PowerShell, doing stuff with VMware, which I was like, because I'm a Microsoft guy through and through. So I was like, well, I'll go and dabble around with some stuff with. So on a map, Boris, it's like the middle of the UK. Whereas, so you've got like London, which is down the south end, then you've got the Midlands, which is obviously the middle, and then you've got like the north, where like I am, and then you've got like the north, and then Scotland.
Which is the real north.
Yeah, the proper north.
Yeah, north of the wall.
Sure. So I did that for sort of 9 months, and then basically rewrote all their MDT deployment stuff, automated all their image build process stuff with version checking and doing backups, and it would replicate to all their other campuses. So that was really good fun. And like I wrote something like nearly over 1,000 lines in a couple of months to do this thing all automated, which they'd done originally. It was all built manually with like a spreadsheet and had a load of tick boxes. I was like, no, look, we can improve on this, and did, which was great fun. So then sort of did that for 9 months, and then a friend of mine who had a managed services support business in Leeds phoned me going, I've got an opening coming up. I think you would be a good fit.
And how did they know you? Was it?
So they knew me from pre-work. So in the UK, when you're in year 10 and 11, you do something called work experience.
Oh yeah.
So the school that I was in at the time had tried to do some work experience stuff, but had fallen through. So last minute, my dad knew this guy through his work, so we phoned him saying, "Can I come and do some work experience?" I did that, and I kept in touch with him, like on the edges. Every sort of couple of months, I'd phone him and say, "This is what I've done. This is where I've been. This is what I was learning," sort of stuff. Hey, Nick, good to see you.
Hi, Nick.
Oh yeah, so that got me to move back to Bradford, which was great because I'd spent most of the year and a bit while I'd been living with mum and dad down in Birmingham, traveling back at the M1 to go and see people. So it was good to come back to Bradford where I am now. And then I did that for sort of 2 years, and that was doing more business IT and charities, and got to do some stuff with ConnectWise and help rebuild and improve their monitoring, and doing some field service stuff and going out to customers and helping set up servers and bits and pieces like that. And that was probably where I started more into like the cloud journey and doing more like Office 365 stuff and M365 and doing some bits and pieces with Intune. So at that point, then started looking at doing like the MD 101 and MD 100 modern desktop exams, which covered deploying and installing Windows 10 and then configuring it through Intune, because that was also then coming up to when the pandemic was. So we were seeing more and more people trying to go and work remotely and not being in the office. So we were doing lots of SharePoint migrations and things like that. And then sort of decided that I wanted to. ConnectWise is it's an interesting tool in terms of an ITSM platform, but it's similar to what we use for an Inset, but I think every ITSM tool is very much a love-hate relationship.
Indeed.
That they do really well, and some things that they just don't. That's all.
So at this point, you're starting to get interested in cloud.
Yeah, so I think it was probably in the second year where we're doing more Office 365 stuff, and I started helping write some PowerShell for doing things with Exchange and configuring Teams and things like that for the guys on the help desk who weren't as codey as I was. So helped like write some basic like PowerShell wrapper things to help them improve stuff. And
how did you learn? How did you learn PowerShell? Did you just learn that on your own, or did you get?
Yeah, so I learned PowerShell from dabbling with servers and things.
About it.
I think most of the people probably watching on the stream at the moment have seen the rack of servers that are currently running out of my parents' garage at the moment because I'm renting an apartment. But it started from that. So I bought a couple of Dell servers, installed Hyper-V on them, and even using my PC and just learned it and then set up Active Directory and then creating and configuring users from that. And it just progressed over time.
Best way to learn.
Definitely.
Hands on. Yeah.
So when we started doing that, and then so this was almost 2 years ago now. It was about this time 2 years ago where I was like, okay, I've done the like managed service stuff. And I want to move more towards the cloud because that's where it's obviously going. And one of the things that I think COVID taught us was like you can work remotely now.
Yeah.
And more, I know we were forced to do that over the lockdown because we weren't given a choice. But I think it proved, and one of the better things that came out of COVID was people realized that you don't actually all need to be in office at the same time to get the same level of productivity done. And in some cases, in some circumstances, people are more productive when they're at home because you've got the freedom to do other bits and pieces. So there was a whole workflow shift of going, well, we're going to do 9 to 5 and you have to be in an office. To we can now work flexibly and hybridly and still get the same or even more work done because you'll do bits and pieces. You might go out and do stuff during the day and then come back and then make up time and doing things in the evening. So sort of started doing that, and I started looking around and started talking to some people on Twitter, which I know we're going to come to in a bit more detail.
You don't talk on Twitter, do you?
Me? No.
We'll come back to that.
Yeah, we will. And so sort of using Twitter and some very good people who I met through there, which, we'll come to on how I met some of them, sort of spoke to some people on there, passed on my CV, and then had a couple of interviews and landed at Intercept.
So before you landed at Intercept, how did you hear about Intercept? Who was the man who put you in touch with that? I think they're on this call. So.
Yeah, well, there was a couple of people. So this going back in time. So are you, Richard. This is the problem when you have all your friends on the stream. You can't
actually this when they're all here.
I know. And I'll get called out for everything. It's like being fact checked live. So going back in time a bit. which sort of brings us on to the next bit, and then we'll loop back to Intercept, is doing sort of social events and things like Experts Live. So back in the day, sort of pre Microsoft Ignite the Tour, they had something called the Tech Summit, which was similar to how like Ignite the Tour was done when it was done at the Excel, but this was done down in the NEC in Birmingham.
Yeah.
And there's a guy, I don't know whether you know him, he really loves like AKS.
I don't know who you're talking about.
No idea. Has a really strange brand colour of like yellow and black. Goes by the name of Pixel.
No, you're going to get abused in a minute, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you met Richard there, or did you know him beforehand? Or
so I met Richard through Twitter, but had never met him. And then while we were at the event, we were sort of tweeting photos at each other, going, "Well, I'm at this part of the venue. I can see this part of the building." No idea, Dan. I've heard it's like some social networking platform to rival like Threads, whatever Threads is. So sort of met Richard at the Tech Summit, and then we've sort of stalked each other on Twitter ever since. And then obviously I met you through him. I'm presuming you guys met through social media way back when.
Yep, I think.
So that's sort of how I met him, and then I met you, and then met other people like Chris Wright, who's here, Boris through Twitter, and Dan. And yeah, like Richard Swag says, back in those days, you'd go home with like a suitcase full of swag, and now you just get like a couple of digital badges, and that's it.
Yeah, we've got bingo cards for all the
bingo card. Yes, it is, Simon. We're sat here. Me and Greg are ticking things off as we go through.
Lots to get to. So, right, so now you've got your Intercept interview. Tell us about that. Who was that with, and then how did that go? Obviously, it went well.
So, the Intercept interview, I think, is most sort of technical in interviews. Cool. Thanks for confirming, Rich. So, the Intercept interview was done it was 2-stage interview, which I think is like technical interviews go on. I think that's pretty standard. So just to backtrack a little bit. So the precursor to this was I messaged Richard through Twitter going, "Hey, I've seen what you and Gregor have been doing on socials at Intercept. It seems like a really good fit. Obviously, you're a pure Azure house. You obviously only focus on Azure. That's where I'd like to move career-wise. Please, here's £10 and my CV. Could you?
There was more than £10. I'm sure it was more than £10.
Please, could you pass my my CV on to Linda in the internal recruitment team, and we'll see where this goes." So yeah, we sort of did that, and I had the first stage interview, which I think was with Mark and somebody else. I can't remember now. It might have been Mark and Bastian, I think. And then the second stage was, I think, with Mark and Rinny. And we sort of went through, and there was clearly like a good vibe, and we were getting on really, really well. And they basically said that, yeah, we think that you'd be a good fit from obviously what we've discussed. And then I said, cool, that's fine. My next request would be, could we have like a third informal, you'll get it at some point, Rich. See me in Prague.
Yeah,
pretty much, Nick. It was more a bribe to Richard because he knew what I'd been up to previously. So I had to keep him quiet to get through the interview stages.
This is live, so we've got this recorded, people. We've got dirt on Simon.
Exactly. So we did the 2-stage interview, and at the end of it, I said, because obviously I'm new to Azure and I'm really keen on learning and developing my skill set, would you be up for having like a third, not like interview, but like just a less informal meeting where you help me come up with a roadmap of should I come and join Intercept?
And that's a good idea.
From like sort of day one when I joined in September to a year down the line. And they said, yeah, we'd definitely be up to that. And I think one of the things that
Wesley's here, we need to stop talking.
Right. Well, that's it. It was that's the end of the stream, right? We'll see you all later.
Boris is saying we forgot about inflation, and Richard's saying good point.
Yeah, true, that's fine. So you can have it in Dogecoin instead. I've heard the inflation on that's going pretty well at the moment. So yeah, we then had an informal like conversation, and they came up with this really nice roadmap of going, so we want you to do 3 exams to start with, which would be the over 2 years, maybe, yeah, potentially. So yeah, we'd like you to do these 3 exams. So it'd be AZ900, AZ500, and AZ103.
That's actually a cool idea, though. Did you
Which
come up
I
with that, or
just-
did they come up with that?
Well,
Intersection.
I asked for a roadmap, not really knowing what the Azure landscape looked like.
Right.
So they came up with that and said,
Okay.
there's no pressure on when you need to do them, but
Mhm.
if you do them within a year, there'd be a small kickback in salary increase against that, which obviously when you're starting out somewhere new is always nice to do.
Yeah.
Which also gives you a little bit of extra drive and determination, because you know, when I've hit this, I'll get, a pay increase, which is really
couple
cool.
of questions I've got here. First,
Yes.
is this your first time? Is this your first job now that you've been fully remote?
Yes. Every other job I've had has always been office based.
Same. And what did you think about working for an international company? Like, obviously, you're working in Bradford and the company's in the Netherlands. So, what did you think about
It didn't really bother me, but I think it's partly because I knew you and Richard
Yeah.
and I'd heard so much good stuff about it. And I was like, well, you guys clearly love it. So there's clearly some positivity and some good vibes going on. If you've done it and really enjoy it, I was like, well, let's see if I can make
Yeah.
the cut and fit in, which I
that?
think.
It's interesting because I think people, when they're looking for jobs in the UK, they don't even consider that. And if I hadn't met Wesley online and hadn't spoken to him, I think it was like
it was
at
even
night,
night, wasn't
2019
it? Like
or something like
proper
that. Yeah, I probably wouldn't be working at Intercept, and neither would anybody else, to be honest with you. Like, Well, maybe they would, but
you
I
technically started this all because you
might
were
not have happened.
the
Yeah,
first.
so it was interesting. A bit of a leap of faith, but yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Cool. So, you wanted to break into cloud, and what in your eyes, what do you love about Intercept? Why do you like working at Intercept? I know your bosses are on and stuff like that, but like,
Yeah, exactly.
Wesley,
So
close your
Wesley, if you want me to send him nice, just drop me a message and I'll I'll say some good things for you. But no, I mean the working from home thing, it's been an interesting thing. I was talking to some friends about this yesterday, about like the whole working from home as opposed to being in an office. And one of the things that I like about working from home is when there's stuff to do, I can just put some music on and I can just sit and focus and there's no other distractions. But I think part of that's like a discipline thing. And some of the things that I've spoken to, some of the people I've spoken to say that they find it really hard to be able to make that definition of when they're working from home and not being able to get like distracted or going playing on your Xbox or playing music or whatever else. But I really enjoy it because I can just sit here, I can get the work done. If I need to talk to anyone or if I've got a question, I can phone you guys or Wesley or Richard or other members of the team and just be like, hey, can you jump on this call for half an hour and work through stuff? And one of the other really nice things about Intercept is they're a people-first company, which is really, really nice and something that I think is really important when you're working remotely. Thanks, Wesley.
It's a very good point.
Yeah, no, it is definitely.
Well said.
But yeah, so Intercepts are very much they're a people first organization. So if you're not feeling well or if you've got stuff going on externally, you can just phone one of the managers or Wesley, and just be like, hey, I need to take an afternoon off or whatever, and yeah, they'll be like, yeah, that's fine, don't worry about it. We'll clear up after you, which is really, really cool.
Awesome. Right, so I've got a couple other questions, but
sure.
What I talked to you earlier about your North Star. So when people talk about a North Star, it's like their long term goal of where they would like to get to.
Sure.
Do you know what your North Star is? Have you ever thought about that? What's
yeah.
the kind
So
of ideal end goal?
Pre-cloud days, when people still did like on-prem data centers and stuff, my goal was to become like a solutions architect and help design and build, obviously, networking and server racks and everything else, which it's still effectively the same thing as what I want to do, but now it's just from an Azure point. So instead of it being like a on-premises solutions architect, it'd probably be like an Azure architect doing the same sort of thing, just with a different tooling and a different skill set. So yeah, that's probably like my end goal. I think from like a practicality point of where people are like, do you go down the management track or do you go down the technical route? There's some days where I enjoy doing little bits of management and helping out and doing stuff. But I think, being brutally honest, I'm a tech at the end of the day and I like to get my hands dirty and I enjoy playing with Azure and code, and that's where I want to be, I think.
Awesome answer. Yeah, a lot of people don't have really goals like that and haven't really thought about it. So what? How do you get to that then? So obviously when you started, you got the
I'm
career
hoping
path.
you can tell me, being an Azure architect, what tips and tricks can you provide?
Well, we'll talk about that another day. But yeah, that's a good comeback. I like that. I
Yeah.
wasn't prepared for that.
But this also doubles back to going like to intercept and good points is, so I've already started this conversation along with Wesley,
Yeah,
yourself, and Richard, and some of like my one-to-one managers and team managers going, I'm now feeling like I'm ready for that next step. Can you help me build a roadmap in and give me some KPIs against this to say this time next year, if I've hit this, and this, would that then put me in a potential position to look at, moving up the ladder? And if not, we'll sit down and review it in a year and go, right, well, you've managed to do this, and this, but you need to go and work on these extra points.
yeah.
So yeah, there's definitely stuff on the roadmap, I'd say.
Any plans to blog this journey?
Yes, which
Tell me
is
about that then.
that's a very smooth introduction to the next bit.
Tell me about
So
this.
yes, so just for the context for the stream and those watching back after we finish this, I've sort of been chatting to Gregor about this for a couple of weeks prior to us booking in the live stream. And what he recommended I do is I write 5 short blog posts, sort of detailing what we've done or what I've done in terms of career progression and what I've used to pass and do the exams. So they are work in progress. I have them just about half drafted out. So the plan is to try and get them done for next week. We'll find out. I've got some time tomorrow evening and Sunday. So I've got them drafted out in OneNote. I just need to finish putting them together and then schedule them out for next week.
So everyone listening, everyone needs to give him hassle if he's not done it by next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, Richard's got a very good point. When are you renaming this blog of yours?
Yeah, so this is
what kind of blog name's that?
So this is from a nostalgia point of view. Yeah. Which I get, and like I get a lot of jip from this from Interception colleagues, because this domain I bought, I don't know, some 10, 15 years ago now, because there was a project that I was working on and I needed a domain that I could play around with. And it sort of just stuck. And then I sort of used it internally for building stuff and learning how to build and configure Active Directory. And then, used it for blogging as it was there. Because at the time, as you can see, because it says Hyper-V Lab, because everything I was building and learning and blogging about, because it was all on-prem stuff, it was all Hyper-V. And yeah, I know it's been a very hot topic internally to try and get me to replace it, but yeah, we're still working on a replacement name.
Constantine thinks Hyper-V is cool, so you're in good company.
There we go. Cheers, thanks, Constantine.
Any other goals apart from your North Star? Anything else you're working towards?
There's some more exams in the pipeline.
Good. What one you got?
The plan for this year. See, and to be honest, I'd be really curious to see what the whole of Azure runs on.
Yeah, let's have a vote.
It surprise me if it's some like updated iteration of like Hyper-V with bits and pieces in.
So let's have a laugh and everybody type in the comments what we think Simon's new website should be called. His new blog.
We could do, and then we could shortlist it through a poll on Twitter.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Right, if you've got the chance, drop a comment in with what do you think? Call his site.
But yeah, so in terms of so the plan for this year was obviously to do 3 or 5 come January and February, which if you want to intersect anything into that exam, you can do.
I know. Did you do that, or have you still to do it?
No, I did it in February.
But
yeah, I was wondering whether you were going to go back to the phone thing.
The phone thing?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So here's a tip, right? When you're doing exams, I actually reference this quite a lot. When you're in the screen of doing your exam at home, don't do what Simon does and his phone's down here and it starts going ring, ring or buzzing or whatever and he's like this. Picks his phone up, automatic fail. Yeah. And then he says to me, I failed the exam. And I was like, oh, he's like, all these issues. And then I was like, well, what really happened? He's like, well, pick the phone up.
So obviously, the invigilators can call you on your phone.
Yeah, but Normally it would pop up and they would.
Well, yeah, but in the heat of the moment, I totally forgot that. So I picked up the phone thinking it was Microsoft. And you know what? It was Microsoft. It wasn't Pearson VUE. It was actual Microsoft support about a ticket they've been emailing me about and going, we've sent you a load of emails, you've not replied. So I then suddenly realized what I'd done and put the phone down. And sort of thought nothing about it, knowing obviously what you'd all told me about and what I'd read online about obviously not using your phone, and thought nothing of it. And then carried on doing the exam and got probably about halfway through the exam. And then all of a sudden, the exam just kicked me out. And that was more annoying.
Did it not tell you why? Did it just kick you out straight away?
Oh, it just suddenly went, you've been caught using, like, you've basically left the
window.
box in the window.
Yeah.
And that was that. And obviously, knowing what I'd done 20 minutes beforehand, but I was like, oh, maybe I've got away with it and I can get this finished. But yeah, so the moral of that story is, put your phone on flight mode.
So you're doing exams. You also was on a series with me and Matt and Lisa doing AZ900. Did you enjoy doing that?
Yeah, that was really good fun. That's the first time that I've done like actual live training stuff with other people. Yeah, I know, Luke. It's a lesson.
About 6 o'clock in the morning, we'd look at, so just say good morning, everyone. Good morning, Luke, whatever time it is.
I know, right? I know. But yeah, there's some other good fun stories that we can come to as well. But yeah, so the takeaway from that was don't answer the phone during an exam.
Quickly going back to working from home. What's the downsides of working from home? Because it's not all 100% amazing. I know there's probably 99%, but what's the downside?
Probably the only downside that I can see from the difference being when I was in an office was like on a Friday when we get to like 5 o'clock or 4:30, we'd go out for drinks.
Yeah.
Which when you're like, I get that I can still go out for drinks on a Friday or on an evening. Yeah. But in terms of doing that with like work colleagues,
your teammates,
it's not that easy. And I know we do like, instead of doing that, we'll go and play games on an evening. But yeah, because you're based up in Edinburgh, Rich is obviously in Newcastle, Jorrit's over in the Netherlands along with Wesley. So it's not as easy to just go, oh, we'll just go for a drink or go out and do stuff. I think it's probably...
We have had some good stuff.
Oh, yeah.
We'll come to that shortly. In fact, we might come to that really. What advice would you give people who are trying to get started in the cloud? You've done that whole journey. Well, not the whole journey, but you've done quite a lot of it.
Sign up for the Azure trial where you can get your $200 of free credit. We could shamelessly plug our AZ900 series, Gregor.
Yeah, nothing like that. I actually should do that.
Yeah. So yeah, I just do that and just play and learn. And if you're not going to go too crazy, set up a pay-as-you-go subscription, which I know can be a little bit dicey. Which I did for a little bit and played around with just creating some VMs, nothing like huge, but to just get a concept of how does this cloud platform work and just play around with it is the best thing to do, really.
Right, let's talk about some of the things we've done at Intercept that have some good laughs along the way. Well, I've obviously done a couple of crackers, but I think you take the biscuit. So let's talk about the skiing. So just so that people don't know, Intercept, because we did quite well as a company for the year, we went, I think it was March, was it March? They decided to take everyone in the company who wanted to go to Austria skiing.
Yeah, they did.
So tell us about your journey there and what happened.
Where would you like to start?
First of all.
Start with the flights.
Your flight should have been Manchester.
Yeah. So So the flight plan was from. So I couldn't. So my local airport was obviously Leeds Bradford, and there was no direct flight to Salzburg where we were going. So I sort of went round the country. So I looked from like Newcastle, from Birmingham, and I didn't want to go to London because it was too far. So then looked at Manchester. So there was a flight from Manchester to Frankfurt, and then from Frankfurt to Austria. And the layover period was an hour, which I thought, it's an internal transfer, that'll be fine.
There's the first problem.
Well, yeah, exactly. The second problem is I don't think it factored in the time zones of going.
No, I think normally when you're going somewhere, the time that you land is the time.
We had this conversation. However, when I landed in Frankfurt, right, to get the connecting flight, I landed with 10 minutes before the gate closed. And I looked at my phone, looked at where like the Frankfurt flight was going from, and realised that I had 10 minutes plus to get through passport control.
Oh my!
To do all of those anyway. So that didn't work. So we obviously had a WhatsApp group for everyone who was traveling to say, I've missed my flight. We now need a contingency plan. To cut a very long story short, unless you want to go through it in more detail, I ended up having to get a train from Frankfurt to Munich, which was then delayed. So I then missed the connecting train from Munich to Salzburg. And then there was a convoy of people who obviously had gone from the office all the way down to Austria, who stopped in, I think it was Salzburg, to pick me up from the station. And then we then eventually drove down to the ski resort. So everyone else had like rocked up there at like 7 o'clock in the evening, and Muggins here turned up at like 10:30, 11 at night.
It was a shame. I really was a shame because you were struggling for tickets and all sorts because everyone's in Germany.
None of the tickets machines would work. So someone else bought me the ticket while I was running through and trying to get an Uber, and managed to get the connecting train with like 3 minutes. It was a right adventure.
So you left Manchester at what time in the morning?
6 a.m.
And I think you arrived about 10:30 in Austria.
Yeah, it was like 10:30, 11:15. By the time I dumped everything and got in the bar and met up with you guys.
Missed all the party, missed all the food and all
that. Sad times.
But the skiing was good. You also took your drone, though, didn't you? You bought a drone.
Yeah. So when I did my 305 exam eventually, because that's the end of the Azure track. So for those who don't know, the AZ 305 exam is the Azure Architect exam, and that's like it in terms of where you can go for it. So when I eventually passed this exam, it means that I can then go and buy a drone, which I've been wanting for a while, but needed a use case to be able to buy it.
Good idea.
So it was a reward for going, you've done all these Azure exams in just under a year. Congratulations, here you go.
So just to go back, so we're all going skiing, and people from the Netherlands and etc. all had skiing equipment and stuff. So me and Simon didn't have a ski suit. So I was like, right, what we'll do is we'll go and hire one at the kind of place we're staying. So we looked online, and lo and behold, this place next to where we're staying, you can hire the full kit, the full suit.
Yeah.
It's trousers and a jacket. So I go and measure myself. Don't know if you did. Didn't really ask you, but I go and measure myself and then ordered probably the correct size. So did you actually measure yourself?
Well, yes.
Okay.
Not well enough.
So when we get there, we go to pick up we arrive, and the next morning we go and pick up our stuff. So we've like a 5-minute walk down, and we walk into the shop. And what's weird is the skiing shop doesn't really hire clothes out, which was kind of weird considering it had stuff in the shop. So they open these brand new boxes and pull out these 2 brand new ski suits, and I was like, oh wow. So we've hired these, so we're hiring them for 2 days. It was like €60 or something. It wasn't expensive. So we go off to try them on, and all I hear is, so there's like a back-to-back cubicle with the curtain, and he's like, all I hear was like, oh no. So I'm too busy trying to get a ski suit on, and we turned around, and then your trousers were like a 5-year-old's trousers or something. They were like the smallest trousers you've ever seen. The jacket was fine, but the trousers were like...
Yeah.
So long story short, the woman's like, well, we had to order these in. We don't really just lift them off the rack. Nope. Don't know what you're going to do. So she's like, we've got a sale on. You can maybe go and get some trousers from the sale rack. So Simon's like, okay, cool. So that was the end of that. That was fine. Simon goes off and tries the trousers on. That's all good. And then he goes to walk out, and the wee metal tags on. So it's beep 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 beep. So he comes back, and instead of taking his trousers and his boots off to like take his trousers off, somebody decides to like lie across the counter with his legs up, with the guy fumbling underneath him to try. Oh, honestly, I was in tears. It's the funniest thing I've seen in a long time.
It was. I don't believe I'm going to say this. I send you this for those who are watching online or in chat. I send you this in the private chat thing in StreamYard. That is the Twitter video that you took without my consent.
I'm going to paste it, right? It was too good
Yeah,
to miss.
paste it. You might as
Too
well.
good to miss. Honestly, it was getting frisked under the table, and I'm like, what is that guy doing? And you were just killed. And the women, everybody in the shop was wetting themselves because they're all looking at you
Yeah,
going, what is
you
going
more
on
than
here?
everyone else, I think.
So the thing is, it's like a bottle opener where you have to get the metal tag off, and they were
Yep.
trying to like use you like horizontally, like that. And I was like, oh my god, this is hilarious.
And I looked up, and all I saw was this man with his phone out,
Giggling,
cackling and crying.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, but no,
That's
like
right.
that aside,
Brilliant.
yeah,
That
sounds about right, Chris. To be fair,
Mhm.
I can't deny it. But yeah, no, like that aside, skiing and snowboarding, and for that weekend, it was so much fun.
Yeah, it was brilliant. I'd always wanted to go skiing,
Yeah,
and I'd never worked anywhere that had ever even said that. So for the company to take like 43 of us or whatever it
I
was,
know it was so much fun,
just
and I'd
brilliant.
definitely do it
Absolutely
again.
brilliant.
But I don't. Yeah,
Yeah, my skiing skills are like zero. So you were doing snowboarding, weren't you? You learned to snowboard.
yeah, I was doing snowboarding,
You were
having
doing
done like
really well.
skateboarding some like 15, 18 years ago. So it kind of in my head it kind of translated, and yeah, having sort of had a couple of goes, yeah, it worked out really, really well.
So we are both going to go to the Experts Live. We need to chat about that as well. You've managed to get yourself into
Any
trouble again.
specific reason why you'd like to chat
Yeah,
about going
so
to Experts
Simon
Live?
being Simon likes a bit of a dare. So if anyone wants to try and wind him up,
to be fair, let's just get this right, okay? It was Nicholas who started this.
Oh, Mr. Chang.
Yeah. I'm just putting blame where it needs to be asserted, right? He started this.
So tell us what happened.
So he tagged me in a tweet the other day with the dino thing in. I don't know if I've got time to find it, but I'll send it you afterwards. So he basically said, "Am I going to wear this?" As like in a bit of fun, and then I tagged I think you, Richard, and Wesley and Izzy to say, "Oh, I thought we were all going to wear this at Experts Live."
A bit of a fill-in story on the Tuesday of the 3 days that we're going, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. There's a networking event with a live band, and Izzy's trying to get us all the Intercept folk up to dance, and it ends up being that Simon's now going to wear a dinosaur outfit to dance up on the stage.
Yep. That is pretty much what's going to happen. I'm just seeing if I can find the tweet that I got tagged in.
So yeah, we're looking forward to that. I've talked to Izzy and this is definitely happening. So we'll get footage.
Yeah. So if anyone's curious, this is the tweet that started it all.
Let me see if I can bring that up.
Or if you want it specifically, this is the bit where I tagged people in. So yeah, and then I heard this afternoon that you've had a call with Izzy while doing some podcast stuff, and confirmed it there, and said, and she's confirmed that she'll buy it and ship it over to Prague for me.
Perfect. Yep. So you don't even need to like put it in your luggage or anything like that, or send it there. It's all going to be there ready for you. 400 people standing and laughing at you. Well, not laughing at you, laughing along with you. I can't wait. It'll be brilliant.
Yeah, so it's going to be good fun. So yeah, we'll make sure that we've got some people with GoPros and cameras to,
So just before we wrap up, you been on holiday recently? Yeah.
Yeah. Went to Rome.
Where did you go?
So went to Rome for a week, which was good fun. Did all like the touristy stuff. Went to Pompeii, went to the Colosseum, went to the Vatican. Ate a lot of pizza. Yeah,
so you saw a lot of sights. How long were you there for?
Just for a week.
And was it busy?
Because it was going around. Obviously, going around all the proper touristy places. It was busy, obviously, but it was good.
And they had a couple of mishaps as well there. Did you know? There's a bit of a theme trending here. I'm starting to
get. So yes, without going into any technical details, thanks, Chris. I did happen to misplace my wallet on a train.
Do you think it was stolen or did you drop it?
Well,
not sure.
We were on a metro, and it was the end of the day, and all I remember doing was I was obviously holding. So it was the same as like being on the tube. So I was holding one of the uprights with one hand, and I had the camera in the other. So I can't have dropped it because I wasn't. I didn't have. No, I didn't. Simon is the short answer.
So you've got all your cards cancelled and stuff.
Yeah. So basically, having then spent an hour in the hotel, and then realised. I then phoned the bank and went, "Yeah, we need to cancel them all." So that was a fun way to end a really nice holiday.
You were also up visiting me, weren't you? You brought your
Yeah, we were. We need to go back.
Yeah, so we went to the Isle of Skye. So tell us all about that and your drone that you
Sure.
took.
So this was something that we had been planning in for a while after we bought the drone. Well, originally we were going to do Glencoe, weren't we?
Yes, yes.
Thanks, Luke. So kind of you. You guys are the best. So yeah, we started in Glencoe for a couple of days, and we went to go see the viaduct for the Harry Potter Express.
Mm-hmm.
And then we decided to go have a day in on the Isle of Skye, which was a lot. I think
quite a lot to do in one day.
Which I think we will do. We'll do it over a couple of days.
Yeah, I had never been to Skye. This is why we were doing.
Either. And the views were cracking.
Yeah.
But yeah, in terms of turning the tables around, what happened when we went to the fairy pools, Gregor?
Oh yeah, so it was like beyond. Well, it was raining in the morning, and I don't know if you know what the fairy pool. The fairy pools is like this, like a gorge basically. It's like a river down rocks. It goes on for like a couple of miles, but it's beautiful. But we walked for about, I don't know, what, maybe a mile and a bit.
Yeah, it was like a good hour and a half.
Yeah, we're taking photographs and just kind of see. There was a guy actually swimming when it was really cold and wet, and then it turned out to be like beyond hot. So we decided to walk back because we were absolutely. I mean, my face was beetroot at this point, and we walked all the way back. And the last part up to the car park is like that. Really steep. The two of us got to you're carrying your bag with the drone and all that in it, which weighed quite a bit. I was just getting old. That was my excuse. So we got back to the car, and I was like, I had taken my jacket off. Don't normally do that, and tied it around my waist, which I've never done since I was about 10. And then obviously I had the hotel key in my jacket and dropped it, and I was like, and I was like to you, do you want to come back with me? And you were like, no. So
that's not true.
You looked done in, to be fair. So I was like, I'll go back. And as I'm walking back, I'm thinking, I bet you have somebody's handed it in the car park, and I'm just going to walk all the way back because I'm an idiot. So, and I walked all the way back to the far end and didn't find it and came back. Went to the car park.
Twice.
And find it. Yeah. So Skye is amazing. If anybody's ever coming to Scotland and wanting to visit, Glencoe used to be my favourite place, but Skye knocks it out of the park.
Yeah.
Yeah, Scott says the midges are like bulldogs. Yeah, thankfully we didn't see any or hear any.
Yeah, we did really well actually in terms of because we went. When was it?
Absolutely brilliant.
It was like early March, wasn't it?
What's that?
It was early March. Yeah, because we did that and then we went skiing like a couple of weeks later, didn't we?
Right. So if anyone doesn't know Simon, which is unlikely, there's his Twitter account, and if you want to catch up with him on LinkedIn. You can get him there. Simon John. I didn't know your middle name was John. There you go.
No, yeah. Lesser known fact.
And we haven't had any votes for a new website name, I don't think, apart from AZ Lee, which I thought was quite good. Where's that? Oh, I've lost it now.
That was from, I think, Nick, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's a couple of comments I wanted to go back and bring up. Probably going to find them. Probably going to not be able to find them. Sorry, I'll zoom down. Yeah, the midges were. Well, we didn't have any midges, which is good. But
we did really well in terms of.
Yeah, one of my pals from Norway, Jan Vider's coming over, and I'm like, it's now really sunny and then really wet, and that's when the midges come out, and I'm like, you better be, let's do that. Ask ChatGPT for some names. There's a good idea.
Yeah, we could do.
Yeah, get a new domain name. Why not? Right, so if anybody's watching and would like to come on, let me just hide. Oh, I'm pressing all the wrong buttons again. Let me get rid of that. And still pressing all the wrong buttons. So let's do this. If you would like to come on the show and chat about anything or demo stuff. So at some point, I'm going to get people on to demo stuff. We'll do that after I've spoken to a lot of people. We want to start off by doing that. Fill that in. If you could choose August, that would be great because I've got about 20 to do in June and it's going to July. So it's going to be quite a lot. I'm speaking to Nicholas Chang.
I was going to say, we should shamelessly plug Nick.
Just over an hour's time. So if you want to come back later on, please do, and we'll have a laugh.
Yeah, definitely. I'll trade places and come listen to him. What's he talking about?
We can wind up Nick instead of winding up you.
Yeah.
We're only doing it because we love you. So
exactly.
If you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe because that would help me out because I've hardly got any subscribers and I'm feeling lonely. But That's fine. I was going to do a prize draw, so let's try and do the prize draw because I haven't tried this yet, and it'll probably blow up my face. But let's try this.
Try
Right.
it. You've got five and a bit minutes to go.
Yeah. So what to do is in the chat, if people can comment with hashtag Simon, right? So if you put hashtag Simon on, everybody who's puts that in will be entered in the competition that I am about to set up. So I need to do. Let me just do a little bit of work right now. Where's Simon Lee? Here he's here. So do hashtag Simon. I don't know if anybody's going to do it because nobody's done it so far. So we'll see if anybody does it, and we'll give it a couple of minutes. But you're also into photography as well.
Yeah.
How's that going? Still
It's going
taking
well.
photos?
Yeah. So when we were in Rome, I took some 400 photos over like the week and a bit that we were there. So I need to at some point go through and complete the camera downloading and start editing some of them, and then I'll put them on socials.
Right, let me share my screen and we'll see how this goes. This could possibly break even. So let's just try.
What happens if some people have put it in twice? Do they get?
Well,
injuries?
I can read that and I'll tell them to stop cheating. Let me just. I've not done this before, so let's see how this goes. Let me try and share my screen. I'll probably screw this up, so don't laugh. Let's do window and then let's do that one. So hopefully you can see my screen now. Yes. Okay. So I chose the chat and I chose hashtag Simon. So I'm just going to start collecting comments. So we've got 9 entries, right? So let's see how this goes. It's probably going to pick me and I'm going to win the prize. I'm a disaster. So let's see who wins. You're going to win a 3 months LinkedIn learning. Oh, Scott McCormack, you've just won 3-month voucher. So I shall send you that. So that actually worked.
Nice. Well done, Scott.
Yeah, well done. That actually worked, which is a shocker. Scott, I'll be in touch and I'll send you the 3-month LinkedIn Learning premium code. If you've already got one, let me know and I can try and send it to somebody else. But Fix, yeah, we're doing Fix, yeah. In fact, let's do another one. I wonder if I can run it again. Let's try running it again, right? Let's just see. We'll do a couple. Probably chance and arm here by doing this, but let's see.
Watch Scott get it 3 times in a row.
Let's try draw again. Hopefully, I don't think it can do him again because there's now 8. So let's give 3 away, right? Let's do that.
Yeah, let's do it.
It's probably going to pick me now, which would be funny. Simon,
hey, Simon,
the other Simon gets one. Right, let's do one more because please don't pick me, but we'll do one more. So Simon and no, don't pick me. It's going to pick me. Watch this. Told you. Let's do it again. Hashtag Simon. I should just have said it. But I tried this the other night there and somebody didn't put the hashtag in and it didn't work. And I was like, oh. Look, you won that one. Right, cool. Anyway. Right, let me switch back to here. Let me stop sharing. Right, I know that. You knew that was going to happen. It's not a fix.
100%.
So Simon's already got a premium. Okay, well, I'll give it to a couple of other people in the chat. I'll ping you later on. It's not a fix, honestly. Simon, thanks for coming on. Appreciate that.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me.
Good fun. Let me just finish up by saying, so in about 1 hour's time, I'm speaking to Nick Chang. So if you want to hang about later on and come back, that would be brilliant.
Yeah, definitely.
We're speaking to him about his career and what he's been doing. So that'd be good. Let's just have a look at the comments before we go. Well done all. Thanks, Chris. It's been a good laugh. And Simon, I'm not going to re-roll. It's fine. I'll sort something out. So, yeah, see you all hopefully in an hour's time. That is us. I'm just going to play a little video on the way out. But thank you so much. Right. I'm going to end the broadcast. Hopefully see you later on. And thanks for joining. Appreciate it. Bye for now.
Cheers. Bye.